Hello and welcome to another episode of my series Chapters and Conversations in my podcast, the Anuj Kapoor Talk Show. I'm your host, Anuj. So, friends, have you ever slipped uh, on a muddy street, argued with yourself in your own head, questioned life, questioned your choices, and perhaps ever questioned the entire universe and then laughed about it later? Because sometimes life isn't just profound, it's also absurd. So, friends, today I have with me Alokparna Das, who captures exactly that space where humor meets truth and where the ordinary quietly asks some extraordinary questions. Her poetry collection, Will the Center Hold, explores the chaos and comedy of everyday life while gently nudging us towards deeper reflections about identity, about balance, and what keeps us from the falling apart. In this conversation, my friends, we will explore her journey, how it has been as a poet, and what all aspects of life she has gone through, the idea behind structuring of her book into side A and side B, which is a very unique concept that I found when I first uh, read the book, and the role of humor in poetry, and all the deeper questions hiding inside the seemingly ordinary moments. So, if you, my friends, found meaning in the middle of confusion or laughter in the middle of chaos, this conversation is for you. So, friends, let us begin with the episode. So, welcome to this podcast, Alokparna. It's a pleasure to have you in this show today. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am also very happy to be in the show today, Anuj. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure, same here, Alokparna, and look forward to this episode today. So, to begin with, my first question basically is about the book. The title, "Will the Center Hold?" That's actually sounds very intriguing and at the same time very philosophical. So, what does that center represent to you, basically? Yeah.
So the center basically represents, our core inner values, which could be strengths, but they most of the times they are also a lot of frailties that we have to endure and overcome, and then despite them can be source. So that's the whole idea, the center.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I also had a look at the book, the poems. I felt the same thing. Okay, so moving forward, one more question I have is that uh, did you have any specific moment in the phase of your life when this question became real to you?
Actually, many times, but the one time I remember very specifically, and I think which was a major life changing event, was when we decided to move back to India with two children. And we had already been living in the US for more than a decade. There, we were worried. We had a lot of questions within ourselves. We had a lot of um, what do you call it? We had a lot of fears, and that's when our frailties kind of played in. But then we also figured that we had to work on them, we had to work around them, and we had to work despite them. And so, that's when we realized that when the center hold, it has to hold. And we moved back, and it's been almost 18 years now. So I think the center did hold.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for answering that. But I mean, your book, it seems to me it feels very surprising, because when I got the book and I opened it, I saw there were two sides, side A and side B. uh, I said, okay, is there something wrong or something? Yes, that's a book that is there. So that's what's really astonishing. So which is a very interesting choice, interesting structural choice, basically. So what really inspired you to choose this kind of structure? Which personally, I felt this very unique, as I haven't really seen this kind of a phenomenon. Yeah.
So I must give the credit to my editor Oindrila Gupta and of course my publisher Shanti who carried it through. So she was, I think, she had been impressed by Manto's book, which is in a similar format. And when she read through my poems, she realized that the poems kind of were, could be grouped into two sides of life. One was the practical, the more logical, the side that dealt with day-to-day things, and then there was the other side that looked beyond what was actually practical, that looked inward, that looked elsewhere, that looked around. And she said both the sides kind of come to the same center. And there was a set of poems which she called the sin poems, but I think they are just human qualities. And she said, let's see if we read it from two sides, will the center.
Right.
And that is when the
Yes. Yes.
book
Yeah,
came
it's
about.
like you have the two. On one side, you have your what do you call, so your philosophy, your emotions. On the other side, you have the reality, and you create a balance, maybe a center. That's why the name of the book is "Will the Center Hold?" Basically, yeah. I think that's a unique concept. Yes.
Thank you.
So yeah, moving to my next question. So I think you must have answered it, but do these two sides represent different emotional states, maybe different phases of life, or having a different perspective?
Yes, they certainly do. While side A represents more of the family, the practical, the bringing up children, the relationship with your parents, your spouse, also, work and all. The other side represents journeys, whether they are journeys on the road or whether they are journeys inside you, whether they're spiritual journeys, whether they're, when you're questioning the whole system. So yes, they do represent two different aspects, and both can be read independently. You don't have to have a
Right.
logical, uh, you know, this thing of a sequence.
Logical flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, I also felt the same, because more you can read it from any order. I feel, and that's the beauty about the poetry as well. So yeah, if a reader starts from the either side, do you hope they arrive at a different emotional or kind of a philosophical destination?
Certainly, like if they start reading from side A, they will be able to relate to what is, going on in every day. Whether it's playing tennis at the tennis court, whether it's, taking a child to the bus stop. But if they read it from the other side, they will start questioning, or they will actually be led to question the different aspects that we take for granted, or that we think of as very sacred or very holy. So it will be slightly different if you read from both sides, but when you reach the center, you will realize that both the sides do lead to that similar kind of a center. Both of them are based on our frailties, what we call our sins, what we call our strengths, right? And both the sides do take you to the same place.
Right, right. So, I mean, you have lived in different countries as you began this interview. So, and worked across different domains, teaching, linguistics, and storytelling, and also curriculum design. So, how these experiences shape your voice as a poet? I mean, did you wanted to be a poet from the very start, or was it like just accidentally you wrote some poem, or how was it? How was the actual journey like?
So I'll start from your latter question. That I think I wrote my first poem when I was 8, and when I brought it home and my parents looked at it, they thought I had copied it from somewhere. But and then soon my poem became was published in a children's magazine, and then on I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to see my poetry in publication. Of course, as I grew older, I realized that's not a career. That's something that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
So, so I did travel to different countries. I worked, I studied in different countries. I lived, and I think all of these experiences have really shaped me as a poet because whenever I write something, it is reflected um, very directly whether I live in, whether I've lived in very cold places, lonely places that have helped me look inside me. Whereas when I've lived in really, crowded places and, right now in India, I've also realized that I have to fend for myself. There, I have loved the relationships that form here. So all of these things have really portrayed themselves in poetry. In fact, there is one poem on spaces, where I talk about whether when there is empty space and I have a lot of space to be myself with, I don't tend to be. But then when I'm in a very tiny space, I kind of find that cramping. So this poem kind of talks about both the aspects. I think it has really shaped me, not just as a poet, but as an individual. All of these.
Okay. So wonderful. It was lovely to see your journey, and I'm sure my listeners will have some kind of learning as well. So yeah, as someone who writes stories for children and also who writes poetry, do you approach language differently in these two worlds, basically poetry, because poetry and writing stories for children is a very different ball game.
Certainly, certainly. So when I used to write stories for children for a program called Teaching Children to Read Through Storytelling, and that was for the age group 4 through 8. So 4 years to 8 years, and I am at that point I use language very carefully because every word I write, either they will be able to read or it will be read to them. So I am responsible for creating their thoughts. I am responsible for what they will get out of that story. So my words were certainly very, my language, the themes, all of that was aimed for the children so that the children become, better human beings
Right.
after reading
Yes.
that or listening to that story. Or even if not better, but at least they will enjoy it and it will be
Enjoy.
appropriate for them. Whereas when I write poetry, poetry is mostly from either myself or for my very close friends and family. And their language is not an issue. I can write in whatever way it flows.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah, poetry is very free flowing.
Yeah, I think I echo your sentiments about that, because as a writer, when we are writing for ourselves, maybe then our language, we write freely. I mean, we can imagine, but as soon as we're writing for a different perspective, different audience, our thought process changes in that angle. Whether it is writing professionally or whether it is writing to a book, that and that we need to keep writing with that audience in mind. I think that is the learning, in fact, for any budding writer also, that whosoever would be listening, if he wants to learn writing, maybe any form of writing, whether it is instruction design or content writing, we need to keep the audience in mind, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. So, moving on to my next question. So, is there a poem in your book, or in this collection that made you really laugh or smile while writing it, but also surprised you with which has such an emotional depth?
Yes, actually, there are quite a few poems there, and there are. So there was one poem that the statement I made, I thought it was very ironic and full of dark humor, and I suddenly realized that my father would, I was older than my father, and it started off in a very dark, humorous joke kind of a thing, but it wasn't when I actually wrote it down because it was also a lament for a father who's gone. So that's one. There is another one where I write about, when paid peanuts. And that's a very
When
light-hearted
paid,
one.
yeah, yes, yes,
And that's a
it's
very light-hearted one where I talk about, how being an educator really doesn't pay. I might as well, wait for somebody to
yeah.
inherit something if possible.
Yes, in fact, I think anyone on a fun part, I think anyone working in an IT industry maybe can relate to that poem with the title itself and paid peanuts. I think, yeah,
Yes,
yes, exactly.
yes.
So, but moving on, when do you first realize that poetry would become a lifelong companion with you? I mean, it has been such a long journey where you have been working professionally, being a writer for children, and I mean, though you have been writing poetry, but when did that kind of magic happen, basically? Yeah.
So I think that happened sometime when I was in school itself, when I was probably not even a teenager, because I realized I was a very quiet child, I was a very shy child, and I wouldn't speak a whole lot to my parents, especially about the way I felt. And I didn't also believe in writing journals. So poetry was the one thing where I put across my thoughts, and I think that was my emotional release, emotional outlet, also my way of rebelling against, whatever I thought needed to be rebelled against. As I moved to college, it became a political statement, but you know, a social statement. But I think somewhere in school I realized that that was the best way to express myself to myself. At that point, I didn't even have to read it to anybody.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my next question is that there is a poem in your book, in your collection that I personally found very intriguing, very emotional. Uh, it's called Nirbhaya, and it is a short poem but very thoughtful, and that reminds me of that times about that girl, that incident that happened in Delhi, and then we had another incident. I mean, we have continuous incident like that, but the major event happened in Kolkata when there were a lot of protest as well. But I think we have moved on. So, do you remember what emotional space you were in when you wrote that piece? And does that poem still mean the same thing to you today?
Oh, yes, I remember that particular poem. I wrote it like initially when we read the news in the newspaper, it was a very, very shocking, sad, distressing thing. And I think I wrote it within a few days or something. I think they'd come up with the name Nirbhaya. And after that, I wrote that poem because that's the emotion there, that we can't do anything to protect the woman, but we give her a name.
Right.
And even now when I think of that, I get it's a very upsetting thing that happened. It was a very, very tragic thing that continues to happen now. And after that,
Yes.
also, like later, I actually wrote a very long poem called Draupadi Nirbhay, which talks about the same incident but with different, you know, connections to it. And that got published and it was awarded. And later, I also wrote another poem on the after the Kolkata incident called "We Must Rise." where again that I wrote during like this Durga Puja, Kali Puja time, where Kali and Durga, they're all talking to each other that we have to rise now. And the emotion still remains the same, whether it was a very short poem at that time of disbelief, not just disbelief, but a sort of despair or sorrow about ourselves that we really cannot do much except, kind of be on our bridge of shame and kind of just give a name and then move on. I mean, that's a shame for all of us, for me too. And I think that emotion will not go away.
Right. Yes, exactly. I mean, I agree. We cannot do much, but at least what we can do is we can raise our voice, maybe through whatever piece we have, or and what better is, I mean, that's all. What I feel is that pen is mightier than sword. So if we have the power, then probably we can use that pen to just spread enlightenment, spread awareness, so that people come to know, and then probably raise a voice. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So yeah, coming back to the interview. So where do you hope readers feel or discover about themselves after reading your collection of poems will the center hold?
So what I would like them to think of mainly when they read the poems is that, hey, life is not that bad. I know there are problems, but this is also fun. I mean, while, for many people, as we grow older, aging, it's a lot of people worry about it. A lot of people have a lot of issues, but it's a part of life, not just aging, putting on weight, children growing up, children leaving, so all of that is a part of life, jobs changing, but
Right.
it's also funny. There is some
Right. There's
underlying
some humor.
humor,
Yeah.
yes, everywhere. And if we can touch that and if we can let that touch us, I think life is worth living. Happy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Life is beautiful. I would say. I mean, and there's so much of things happening. Maybe layoffs or everything. War is there, but at the end of the day, we just need to take each day and enjoy the life. What I feel is that we tend to what do you call we tend to worry too much about the future, and then when we are worrying, we are not paying attention to our present. Basically, that's
True, true.
yeah. Yes, exactly. So my next question to you is that what next to you? Another poetry. I mean poetry. I know you already you might have a whole lot of collection, but do you plan to take out another book with your another poetry collection, or maybe some fiction or anything? Yeah.
Uh, Fiction, maybe not. I, other than children, for writing for children, I really haven't attempted grown-up fiction. But poetry, yes. In fact, recently I did something very interesting, and we plan to take it forward. Is that I worked with an artist here, Shirupa, and she is an artist, and she had her exhibition. But before her exhibition, took a, I looked at all her paintings and I wrote poetry pieces for a lot of them, either on individual pieces or on general themes. And the art pieces were put together in a similar theme. And then during the exhibition, I actually read out my poems, performed the poems, so that when people saw the art pieces, it was as if the art pieces also had words to them. They made people think about the art piece in a different way. So now we are thinking of taking that further, maybe to a larger platform, maybe to a printed version. We still don't know, but still very early. But that's something we are looking at.
Okay. Hope so. Look forward to that collection, that beautiful collection, another beautiful collection, I would say, of yours. So, and if you go back to your younger self, maybe, uh, and you need to give one piece of advice to that particular person, so what would that be when you started writing poetry? What would be that advice?
So my advice would be, see, at one point I really wanted to make myself be known as a poet, at least at at some level. But now I realize that in Hindi we say na maya hai, sab maya hai. So all I would tell myself is it doesn't matter whether you're published or not published, whether people read you or whether people know you or don't know you. Keep on writing. You're doing it for
Right.
yourself, and for every poem or every story that you write, you are becoming, you're evolving. So, and it is a continuous process. Do not stop. Do not lose hope. Do not worry.
Right.
So, that's
Yes.
all I can say.
Yes. I think that also. I mean, I also say believe in this that we shouldn't stop writing. I mean, whether we publish it or not, we should keep writing. Only that way we will learn. We will get
Absolutely.
better each day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so yes. Now I would give you the opportunity. So probably, and if I would really appreciate if you could just recite a poem, maybe a short one from your entire collection, which you feel uh, it's very close to you, or maybe it is especially meaningful to you.
Certainly. So I'll read this poem that actually brought about the publishing of this book, which is called The Restless Sprite. So as I said, there was a time when I would think, will I never be published? And then I just sat down and wrote this poem. And then I said, okay, now is time. I'm going to really put in all my efforts, because before that I had gotten a few rejections. So, so I will now read this poem out, The Restless Sprite. The restless sprite. No more a stir, no more a chide. The sprite inside is up again. The sprite inside is up against the calming, soothing lullabies. No more, no more. It raves and rants of frying eggs and serving snacks. It wants to fly to unknown shores of hearth and home. No more, no more. Nesting, birthing, mothering, the chokehold grip of nurturing. No more of these, no more of those. It's waited years for the young to fly, half asleep and oh so quiet. But now it's up again, restless, and it's up against the calming, soothing lullabies. It knows it has but just a few days before age will make its justful claims on fleeting youth and waning strength. So before the back, the knee gives in, it shakes me up, it takes me in, and wakes me up at midnight. It rests my breath and wrings my mind. It shouts, what are you doing now? You've done the tasks you were assigned. Their lot is theirs. What about you? Isn't there something you need to do? I look askance. What is that more? Where is that unknown shore where the restless sprite wants me to go? I open and shut and open the door. Do I hear some voices call my name? Those brazen peaks I've yet to climb, the taunting sea, the mocking waves, the siren call of the unknown? Do I walk out that door or rein it in? That awful, restless, spiteful sprite that will not take a no, that is up again and up against the calming, soothing lullabies, that rests my breath and wrings my mind, wrenches my calm and quietude, and thrusts me onto unknown skies.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alokparna, for that one for reciting that wonderful poem. In fact, before we go, I would really be thankful to you to have accepted my invite to be in this podcast today. I mean, in 2 days in this episode today, and it was a pleasure to have you and sharing your words, your wisdom, your entire journey, and your perspective. It was really wonderful, and your book, Will the Center Hold, is not just a collection of poems. I feel it's an experience that uh, uh, that will stay with the reader, I mean, I've not read full. I've not read all the poems, but whatever poems I have read, they have been very thoughtful. And in fact, they are very motivational. Also, I feel whenever I'm down or not feeling good, I just read one or two poems of yours, and then they light up my spirit and stuff. So I hope the listeners, they will also be really like that book. But one last question I have is that where can they really find your book if they have to read it here?
So it's available on Amazon, and it's also available with Wolf Publishing. So both the places you can get it. So
Okay.
Amazon it is there. It should be there.
Okay, sure. So thank you so much, Alokparna, once again for coming to this episode. And pleasure is really mine.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was lovely talking to you, Anu.
Thank you so much. Yeah, bye bye.
Bye bye.
So, friends, some books give us the answers, another gives us better questions. And this particular book that we just talked about, Will the Center Hold, does something even more beautiful. It reminds us that meaning often lives in the middle of life's messiness, contradictions, and unexpected laughter. Alokparna's Das poetry invites us to pause, smile, reflect, and perhaps accept that uh, not having everything figured out is part of being human. And on that note, we come to an end of the episode of this series, Chapters and Conversations, in my podcast, The Anuj Kapoor Talk Show. If this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to pick up the copy of a book, Will Center Hold. Uh, you will find it on Amazon and also on Wolf Books websites. You can purchase the book from there, and I'm sure you will find pieces of your own story hidden between its lines. Thank you once again for listening to this episode. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep your center. Bye for now.